This is the Night Owls Disc Golf Podcast, a Disc Golf Answer Man podcast. Part of that network, anyways. Messed that one up. I did pretty well.
I was surprised you got through the first one with Bobby. That was awesome.
It was. So, this is our 15-minute short for Mondays. And what we're going to talk about today is, what are we talking about?
Player legacy.
Player legacy. And how important is it?
Yeah.
So the reason I brought it up, and you have a different take on it, and I'm glad we have two different takes on it. I brought it up because you look at the foundations that are popping up through large players. So, and I'm sure there's some we don't know about, but Paul Macbeth Foundation.
Right.
Garrett Gurthey, which I think is the Garrett Gurthey Foundation. Yeah. And then the Ricky, which has not been set up yet.
But he's working.
But he's working on getting it taken care of.
And as far as I know, it sounds like you play a little bit where he's trying to get it into schools. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or donating baskets and discs. And that's kind of what it sounds like. But I'm not totally positive.
It sounds like it parallels every other, foundation.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I think both. Wow, that was a good one. Don't drink Pepsi while doing podcasts. I think, so here's my take on it. The reason why I bring that in legacy is because I think that's what these players are doing. Mm-hmm. How can they leave their mark on the sport?
Right.
And I think, once again, I think that's why Paul's doing it. He wants to leave a lasting impression. And I don't know if it's specifically geared toward legacy, but is that all part of his legacy? And is that what sets him aside from the GOAT conversation from Climo? Is pushing him into that next level because he's doing good for disc golf.
Sure. And when you brought up my differing point was I was thinking more of the player side of
the player legacy. Yep.
Right. And so what Paul has over Climo is that Climo's legacy is strictly player-based. Mm-hmm. Paul's will be the foundation and being player-based. Mm-hmm. Like he has both sides where we will always know them, their names, because of the play, but Paul's might last longer depending on how long the foundation keeps going and is funded and can provide what it provides. Now, we will always know Climo's name. If Paul surpasses that, we'll still know Climo, but we'll know Paul as being the GOAT because that's the debate.
Right. Yep.
So yeah, player legacy wise, it differs. You know, it's two separate things right now.
Yeah, and I see the playing legacy and a player's legacy as two separate things, but I think they're both legacies.
Sure.
And I think they can both stand on their own. Mm-hmm. So Ricky, do you see that as being authentic? I don't know Ricky, so I can't tell you, but do you see that as being authentic or just the next thing that he needs to do to keep pace?
No, I think Ricky loves his fan base. I think Ricky understands what the future of the sport is, and that's the age now, young and impressionable children, getting them early to start. I think people will say that Ricky's doing it in response to Paul, that Paul already had the foundation set up, and he's like, well, you're just piggybacking off of what Paul does, as far as legacy goes.
Yeah, keeping pace.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I have a thing, it comes from a good place.
Right, yeah. I mean, I don't think you can create a foundation and donate a bunch of money without it being from a good place.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be, you're going to have a hard time arguing and saying that it was not paved by Paul.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not downplaying what he's doing. I think it's awesome. I think more foundations and more charities, more giving, more tithing, all those things fold properly into what we should be doing as humans.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Now that's from a faith-based background. Of course, I believe that we should be giving money to help, or just giving in any way, shape, or form that we can, in any respects that we can. And I think these players doing that is awesome. It doesn't have to be faith-based. It can be anything. But I think it's just a good human thing to do. And just because you don't have a foundation doesn't mean you're not a good human. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that is a good thing to do. Let's talk about Garrett Gerthy and his foundation. Mm-hmm. What does his foundation do?
I guess I'm kind of... I know it has to do with children. Mm-hmm. I'm lost on primarily what it does, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And does it use disc golf? Like, I would really like to know more about it. You know, I think you and I have had this conversation, and I've mentioned this before, that, you know, my giving never comes with expectation. So people don't know what we do as an organization in my other business. Mm-hmm. And then now when we're giving, this is the very first time I've actually outwardly and openly given. I wonder if Garrett Gerthy or even Ricky, in that regard, have that same feeling where it's just kind of like, I want to do this, but I don't want the attention for doing this.
Sure. So the Garrett Gerthy Foundation or Children's Foundation, I don't think it's tied into disc golf. I think it's purely just giving, just a foundation.
Okay.
Right.
Of giving to needy children?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or sick children. Yeah. Okay. I think that's what it is. It would have been interesting if Ricky had kind of gone the same way, mm-hmm. not necessarily doing his foundation with disc golf and chosen another avenue to allocate his money, you know, for the foundation.
Right. Yeah.
Because I think, people, the similarities between his foundation and Paul's. I often think, you know, the Garrett Gerthy Foundation, people know him. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have the status of a Ricky or a Paul, and the money he's giving, from what I understand, not necessarily through his winnings, but funded through the jerky. Right. So that's a different way of getting the money.
Right.
You know, so, and I mean, I don't know what the situation is with Ricky donating with his foundation, mm-hmm. money, you know, where it's going to, what that's buying to give to people that way either. So hard to say.
Does it make his giving any less relevant or pertinent if he does it in the same way that Paul Macbeth does it?
Ricky?
Yeah. So if Ricky comes out and says, hey, guess what? All of my winnings this year are going to go to the Ricky Wysocki Foundation.
I mean, it's his money.
Right, right.
So he can choose to whatever. But people are just going to say, well, you're doing the same things, Paul.
Right.
So it's double-edged. You're doing a good service, but you're getting the reputation that, well, you're just following in Paul's footsteps. Mm-hmm, and, mm-hmm. you know, I think it's hard once someone establishes something that you can't, it's hard to look past what that person has done. Right. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, you're just doing this because of that other person.
Right.
There's something about having your foot in the door.
First,
yeah.
Exactly. That early bird gets the worm.
Yep.
You know, I think the way to look at it, to bring it more of a positive, you know, I'm being pretty critical of him. And since this is short, I don't want to push it on too long because I want to get to the other side of the legacy. Yep. But I see it as being fantastic. Doesn't matter how many people follow suit. Mm-hmm. Sure, Paul might have been the first one to openly do it, but what about some of the older legacy players? You know, and like Jay and Des Redding, the stuff they do with Edge is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have Zoe Andyke, and you play, correct?
Yeah, with Dustin.
With Dustin and Zoe. Yeah. And then, you know, you look at some of the higher profile players, you know, they were players and then did some of these things, but they're devoting their lives to giving. And that's the same thing with what Paul Macbeth is doing with the folks he's using. Mm-hmm. You know, they're devoting their life to it. So in my humble opinion, I look at it as a rising tide floats all boats.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And if you have a hole in it, obviously, but not. In this situation, I think it's a great thing because it's just more money, more giving, mm-hmm. more exposure. You know, and then you got the unintended or maybe the happy little side effects of helping you sell more, helping you do things mm-hmm. like that, and bringing a better name to your legacy.
Right.
In the end.
Yeah. I think to bring up giving as well as, you know, for people that aren't professionals or whatever, there's Eagles Wings. You can always donate to them, mm-hmm. you know, donate your used discs, and those are going to good places, you know,
Right.
giving people that don't maybe not know what disc golf is, they give them discs. You know, I've seen videos of kids in Africa whipping discs that have been donated by them, and just introducing the sport in another way is great.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a fantastic, like, those three are the kind of the main three predominant ones, and of course there's the Paul Macbeth Foundation as well, but you know, you got Eagles Wings, You Play, and Edge, and Edge and You Play. So Edge is specifically catering towards giving courses or how curriculum to schools. You Play does the curriculum, but they also go in and work with and do.
They'll do clinics and bring in pros
and
get that going.
And then you got Eagles Wings, who will go around and use disc golf as a portion of their ministry as they're walking around. So that's a Christian organization. And I think all three of them suit. So if you want to give, pick one.
Yeah.
It's so easy. And all of them will either take discs or money, or help, or just body power, or manpower, body power.
Yeah,
whichever one that is. Yeah.
If you're a man and you have a body,
yeah, exactly. Exclusively, you don't have to have both, just
Right.
one or the other. But you know, doing that and giving that, and that's something that disc golf is. I mean, people are so good in the disc golf community of doing that stuff, giving their time, giving their efforts, and building courses, building communities. And it's so easy to step outside of our own community with these organizations to help out. You know, I've put boxes together and sent them places, you know, and it's nice to do that because of the hundreds of discs you collect over the time while you're playing. A lot of them just end up, you will never touch them again, especially if you cycle through putters, JP. There's a lot of times you will never cycle back to a certain putter, and you have 20 of them. Box them up, send them to a school.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's get into the legacy side that you were talking about.
Yeah, the player legacy side. Yeah.
So how important is that, and who do you think carries some of the biggest or the best?
Okay. So right now, I mean, you look at legends of the game. You have, for men, it's like Barry Schultz, Climo. Women, Juliana, Des, Elaine King. Who else am I thinking? I can't think.
Valerie.
Yeah. I mean, those, and then Paige. So, I mean.
And I think Kat hangs in there.
Oh, yeah, she does.
But she's just not as in front of you because of her social media presence.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where you look at accolades or what people have achieved, and like, you know, that's the bright shining thing in your face. It's like, okay, world championships, US championships, and then, you know, maybe like player of the year. And, you know, that's what you're measured to. You have this measuring stick and what we know these players for. And obviously, the bigger the number, I mean, you look at Tom Brady, it's like 7 Super Bowls, 5 Super Bowl MVPs. Like, right now, that's seen as untouchable for now. Who knows? Like, we're still young enough in the sport where someone could come up and pass those or, get close. But I heard a really crazy stat today. I was listening to the Nick and Matt show, and one of the questions that they do for Factor, what is it?
Factor Fiction.
Yeah.
Or no. Yeah, something
like that. And one of the questions was, what's more, Tom Brady's total career touchdowns or 1040 rounds by Paul Macbeth?
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
And Paul Macbeth surprisingly had like 610 1040 rated rounds, and that dropped my jaw. Like,
absolutely.
That's that's a stat that's like, you know, you don't think about. It's in the back, but you think about it, you're like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Like, amazing.
But talk about a legacy. Tom Brady, I heard that too. I didn't finish the episode yet. But said that Tom Brady, stat or fiction?
Oh, stat or fiction,
okay.
Yeah.
Said that Tom Brady had 630 some wins against the Buffalo, or 30 touchdowns against Buffalo, right? It was
I think they were talking about wins. It was
30 wins?
I think it was 33 wins and 3 losses versus Buffalo. And I forgot what the number was. It was They're asking if Dez had more NT wins than Tom Brady had wins
Yeah,
against
you're
the
right.
Buffalo Bills. I think
You're
that's
right.
how it went.
Okay.
And that's amazing. Like 30 NT wins.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And and she's rarely brought up as a legacy player. When you talk about people that have won a lot, she's rarely brought up, but she was the pioneer. I mean, she only had what, 4 outside of the top 10
Yeah, NTs.
ever
Yeah.
in all the
Right.
like that's incredible.
That's incredible.
That is incredible. So, talk about the legacy of Climo, the GOAT.
I mean,
Or, put the air quotes up, GOAT.
right. I mean, it's for what he did in the era to reach 11 world titles. I mean, Paul's at 5.
5.
We don't know how much longer he's going to play.
He said he can win 7 more.
Okay, well, I guess
He said he could see it. He could win 7 more.
if he's that dedicated, yeah, definitely. But as of right now, you think about the competition, the discs at the time, just the way the game's evolved now and the athleticism of players. I mean, maybe there wasn't as much competition. It was a little easier back in the day. But
And
still,
technology wasn't there. Like all the
Yeah.
excuses that they...
right. But, I mean, 11.
Yeah.
11, like, that's
Yeah.
just unheard of. Right? I mean, it's not unheard of because it happened, but it's, like, mind-blowing.
But, I mean, his last championship was 2004?
Yeah. And
Somewhere in
Somewhere
that
in
area.
there, yeah.
So, almost 20 years ago.
or does he have 12? Does he have
So he has-
or a master's?
He has... Oh, my goodness. I'm going
don't
to get this wrong. No, he has 12 world championships
Yeah.
and 11 U.S. championships.
Okay.
I think that's...
Oh, man. I feel
I
bad
don't
for
know.
messing that up
We're
right
not
now.
going to know. I know it's 12
Yeah.
because I have an 11-time T-Bird, so I know he
I
has
know, yeah.
12 world championships. He might, yeah. So, but I think more of what I want to talk about is how Climo's legacy affects Paul
Oh.
and Ricky,
Yeah.
because Paul can't do anything and Ricky can't do anything without being compared to Climo.
Yeah.
What does that do to a person's psyche?
Well, I mean, if you, like you just alluded to with Paul, he's gung-ho about attaining that record. Like, he's driven. I think Rick is young enough right now where it's hard if, competing with Paul, they're going to either take championships away from each other or one of them is just going to go on a run, and that's just going to be that. And yeah, it's going to be a hard number to touch. Ricky also, is a little behind on the U.S. championships, so
Yeah, that's elusive for him.
yeah,
He hasn't gotten one yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's going to be harder for Rick to catch up. I mean, he's still, considered one of the best right now. I think he will go down as one of the best to play. But at the end of the day, when numbers talk, where will he stand?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you talk like Brady and Rodgers. So we're from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And people are arguing that Rodgers is the best quarterback that's ever played the game. Just look at simple numbers. It's just not the case.
Right.
And there's no comparison you can even make to make it close. And the fact that, Rodgers has been in 6 playoff seasons and has not gotten to the bowl except once.
Yeah.
Or 7, something like that. He's only been there once.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, it's the same thing you look at with Macbeth and, Climo. Like, Macbeth's been in a lot of world championships, and he's approaching almost the same number as Climo.
Right.
But Climo has 11.
Yeah.
Or 12, excuse me.
Yeah.
And our internet is not working right now, so we can't look up the exact numbers. But so I guess when I look at legacy, and we talk about legacy, I think outside of disc golf, how important are those legacy players?
I don't. Right. I can't speak for new players or, people that have been in the game, a couple of years, but we come from an era where we've seen them play. We've seen Paul and Ricky play now, and we'll see more, up and comers, Eagle, Kyle Klein, Cannonberry, all these other people come forth. So we have an idea. Go back and watch the early videos, find them on YouTube, whatever. Watch them play. Watch, these people play. So it's the debate of Michael Jordan and LeBron.
Right.
We grew up in an era where Michael Jordan's seen as the GOAT. Bill Russell has 11 world championships. It's a team sport. Obviously things are different there, but some people consider him the GOAT, for the championships. But the impact Michael Jordan had on the culture, the run he went on with championships, it's kind of
well, and the money in the game,
right?
The sponsorships, the impact he had on the game puts him, like, his legacy puts him above Bill Russell.
Yeah, right,
without a doubt. Even though if you probably look stats, just numbers of wins, things like that, Russell's all over it.
Yeah,
So, and I think that's the Ken Climo, like you said.
Yeah.
I think that's a great comparison between those two, because I think Paul Macbeth is doing more for the game than Climo. Now it's a different era, just like you said, because it's the converse comparison. Like,
yes,
when Climo was in it, it didn't matter what he did. He was never going to push the money that Paul Macbeth did. So why would he put that effort to it? He's going to go hang some more drywall. And I'm not saying that because that's what he's a contractor.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, I don't know if he's the contractor, but that's what he does. He hangs drywall. So he's going to go hang more drywall for more money. And then he's going to go and play on the weekends.
Yep.
And then he's going to go back and go to his job and do his thing. And Macbeth never had to do that. He played disc golf.
Yeah.
And he could focus on it because there was the money there and he didn't have to worry about it. So I think Climo's legacy helped influence and shape and support Paul's legacy. And I think Paul's legacy is helping shape, influence, and support all the legacies that are going to follow him.
Right.
And Ricky included. So
I can see that, yeah. I think just as eras change, players change, they're going to figure out ways to adapt or become better to prolong their name in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think what people are doing with either their legacy of play or their legacy as a disc golfer in general or as a person, I think is only going to bolster the next generation and the next folks to come to do that much better. And for anyone that thinks that Ricky is any less of a player or any less of a person because he's following in the footsteps of a person that's greater than him, well, or that could be debated that is greater than him, then I think you got it wrong. I think you need to step back and take a look at yourself and say, what are the things that he's doing? And of course, there's always pace setters out there, and you want to pass them.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Ricky's doing. He's getting to that next level. So with pushing that legacy and building that foundation behind Paul, he wants to do it just that much better. So, and I think Paul's given him the ability to do that.
Right.
So
it's interesting. We've talked about, the foundations and like play. What about someone like Drew Gibson, who's now putting his name out with his disc line?
Right.
Like that's a different, he's a good player, but now he's going to have that. Or Kale's even coming out with his own discs that are being manufactured through Prodigy. So their names are going to be on those discs. They're going to have companies, and then hopefully they build off that, and that'll cement a different side.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back, and I think that ties the two worlds we were talking about together, because that goes back to Jay and Des, to Val, to Climo, to Schultz. They got names on their discs.
Yeah.
And that's what started that. That's what paved that path. And then, I think most recently, Paul might have been the first one to get his own line of discs. and then Paige,
Yep.
and then Drew, and and you're starting to see that
Yeah.
coming now. Ricky,
Yeah, James
so,
Conrad, yeah,
and
all these
Conrad,
people,
yeah.
yeah.
So you're starting to see that happen, and I think that only cements those legacies even more. And I think it's awesome because it's only going to do good things for the sport.
Yeah.
I think there's a saturation level that because I don't know of any other sport that has the person's name on the equipment you use.
Well, Air Jordans.
Well, Jordan, yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, there's companies, Nike has signature athletes where they put out signature shoes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. That's
Yeah, I mean, is there like a Fowler driver or a?
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to think of it. Are there maybe cleats? Maybe shoes are the most comparable thing.
Yeah.
Because like baseball players have cleats and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I'm thinking like, does anyone swing a pull host bat?
Yeah, I don't know. Like like I know, like a Louisville Slugger or something. Like when a player has it, they'll get their name engraved on it or something. But the closest comparison I think is, sports specific shoes. It's not like you're going and seeing, you got a Spalding or a Wilson basketball, but you're not. It's not a, this is a Kevin Durant. Well, no, that's
they
not true
haven't.
because I've seen that. Yeah, so. Yeah, but it's not, or baseball. You're not going to see a baseball with a baseball player's
Right.
unless it's signed.
But that's marketing units. I don't think that is. I think that's still just a bit different with disc golf because disc golf, these are production run discs.
Yeah,
And they have their signature,
yeah,
flights.
yeah,
So yeah, I don't know. It's funny to see that because, like I said, I think there's going to be a saturation point because, honestly, who cares if it has a player's name on it or not, unless you're a fan of that player.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I can find a disc that flies that way, Sexton Firebirds are
Yeah.
a great example because they're color glow Firebirds.
yep,
That's they're just recycled molds of the color glow Firebirds.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, but I'm wrong, obviously, because Sexton Firebirds are going for bananas money right now. So obviously I'm wrong, but there has to be a saturation point where
Yeah.
people don't care of whose name's disc on it, whose name is on that disc. But to cement the legacy, that's fantastic.
right,
Because Sexton's one we didn't even bring up, but
Yeah.
there's definitely a legacy there
yeah,
that's going to hold.
yeah.
So, all right. I think that's about it. Where can
I
they
think
find
so.
you, JP?
onenight.owl on Instagram.
And you can find us at www.doordisc.com. That's where our retail store is located. You can find most information about us. Instagram is door_disc_golf. And on Facebook, it is Door Disc Golf Store. I think that's it.
Okay.
All right. Keep us up par. Peace.